I saw Isaiah Hero run people over with Nidalee on 100 ping, so I don't really know how much ping actually matters, bro. But to that
For
note,
AD?
yes.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Salt Mine. This is Season 6, Episode 3, and we've been off for a couple of weeks now. It has been a nightmare trying to get everything scheduled for this one. There's been multiple reschedules. I'm trying to get this episode on board, so sorry about that. It's a lot going on, right? We got now 2 folks on LPL English. Shout out to Quax. We're joining up over on that broadcast. TDS has been busy with LTA South. I'm gainfully employed, so there's been a lot going on stopping us from being able to record this episode, and that is definitely prevented things from getting rolling, but we are well underway into the ACL. And the NACL is now already in its final super week before the regular season is going to end. We're recording this on Wednesday the 6th, so it's already going to get a little difficult to really not be immediately out of date in regards to the NACL. So I think what we're going to do this episode, we're going to lead off with ACL. We're going to go through what's been going on with ACL so far.
2 weeks have
and
gone
we'll
by.
wrap back to a couple of bits of NACL news at the end, and then we'll do a much deeper dive in NACL after the regular season is over in the next episode when we do our all-star teams. But first things first, before we dive into the ACL groups themselves, do you want to just talk about the format that we have been going with this split? It's been going really, really well, I think, so far. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback. I have a lot of positive feedback for it, and definitely going to definitely been producing some very interesting matchups, I would say. But want to hear your guys' thoughts a little bit too.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think the format has been really cool at highlighting certain teams. Sometimes I think it's difficult for welcome back. Sometimes I think it's difficult for like a format such as the one that like the qualifiers have to highlight some teams that might be going on like upset streaks, might be considered dark horses. And I do think that this format has allowed for that to be kind of take center stage along with the favorites such as like Supernova and CCG and Citadel, who are all doing very well, by the way, already locked as A teams, I'm pretty sure. But like teams like Gravity have really caught my attention, right, with their ability to contend. Weber caught my attention with their ability to contend against Supernova. Like there have been a bunch of teams that have shown that these NACL teams can totally bleed and have already, I think, rallied a decent amount of support behind them. Gravity in particular, not just because of their performances, but because of the insane social media team that they have on Twitter. Those guys are mentally unwell, I feel, sometimes, but in the best possible way.
I think the prevailing thing for me is the fact that you get like a good balance of the, like, I guess I'll just label them the NACL teams, and they get like a good level of competition, but then also get rewarded for like being on point early, right? Because like Quack said, they are the 4A teams, right? By this point, Papa's Chunks, CCG, Supernova, and Citadel. So like if you take like for Supernova, for example, like their run through their group, like they get to play Weber and they get to play Cupid, which are 2 pretty good opponents. So like even if you say, oh, they only play 2 matches to get through this point, like from the pool standpoint, they're playing a great Weber team, and then I think Cupid was 7th in pool 2, so they're second in pool 2, so they're like 6th or 7th overall. So yeah, I think it's a perfect blend. I am very impressed by how this has played out.
And I mean, you covered like Supernova versus Cupid. You covered Supernova versus Cupid on Monday, this previous Monday Slayer. Like I feel like a lot of people have been like discussing Cupid as a team because obviously, for those of you who don't know, this was initially the slated 6 roster, and then they became the Polestar roster in NACL that didn't take a single series. But like do you think that like they're like considered to be in that dark horse category? Like from when they were slated 6 to now when they're Cupid, like do you think there has been like a substantial amount of improvement to where they slot comfortably in that like 5 to 8 potentially tier of teams?
Yeah, 100%. I think they should have taken a game off Supernova. To be honest with you, the
I
way
agree.
they especially played the second game was pretty impressive from lane from the early game phase. The shortcoming that comes through for Cupid that I would say separates them from getting out of the dark horse team into an actual contender team is not playing the map correctly from both ahead and behind. But yeah, I think Cupid would have won game. They would have won game 2 against any other team that wasn't sporting NACL players, in my opinion. So it's just the reality that. Sorry, let me rephrase. Sporting NACL players that have been scrimming and playing twice a week together. Like the cohesion is also there. So like that's what was the difference in that series for me was that Supernova when they were like they went down like 4K. This Unara got to like 3 items and Unara can be really over torqued from damage standpoint when she's that far ahead, and Supernova just played from behind like an ACL team, and that's the only reason they that's the main reason they get this sweep. So if you get that kind of lead from Cupid against any other team, like even Lotus X Spellbinders, you know, like some of these other Pool 2 teams,
Gravity.
they win that game.
Yeah,
Gravity,
I mean, I also think that Supernova, strangely enough, like even though they are literally the top NACL team, and probably the favorites here, I feel like Supernova have shown the most bleeding of all of the NACL teams. Curiously enough, like I have felt like CCG in particular. You know, this is my time to be really weird because I put these guys at 9th when we were ranking them, but I feel like CCG have shown up as probably the strongest team over these past couple of weeks. I think Supernova has probably looked the weakest of the 3 NACL teams. Like they looked real shaky against Weber. Weber almost won that game 3, but I think Supernova found one good angle and then managed to run away with it. Kind of like the classic T1 strat. Lose everything, find one good team fight, win the game, no questions asked. And then, like you said, Supernova versus Cupid was kind of shaky from Supernova's side. So I am interested to see like how this team starts stacking up against other Pool 1 teams, because their first match is against CCG, and I think by the current forms that we've seen these guys, I favor CCG in that. Like I think it'll be probably a 3-game series, but I do favor them.
Well, I do want to add also Royal did sub in top lane.
That is true.
Series as well. It was not Hoarder.
Yeah, I will add in because I do think that Supernova particularly has been playing in the similar way where the old format was set up, where you can take a little bit more leeway early on and then kind of stack up in the later part, and you can still qualify for playoffs. You can quote unquote do that as well here, but I feel like you need to be ready to react much sooner here because there's less games technically than in the previous format. And I think that Supernova has been doing that in the sense that they have not really activated yet compared to the NACL. And I think they probably are taking a bit of a backstep here before really taking it seriously compared to the NACL in that sense, where I do think that the other teams probably, because of the current state of the NACL, I think they probably wanted to qualify way before so that they could concentrate on not getting relegated into the relegation matchups or anything like that either. Because, like, technically speaking, that was going to be much sooner than the playoffs in the ACL. That's also another way of trying to, like, get in a more comfortable spot thanks to the change in the current format. And I do think that for all the way that he kind of felt or has fallen through with the top 4 teams, it was really expected. But I also think that all in all, there's nothing that I can take away from this because I feel like at the very least they've shown good enough level that I can see them being the number 1. Because there's other instances where their number 1 seed starts off really strong and then they just kind of keep on falling over. And I think that for so far, for how they played, I'm fine with these 4 teams being the number 1 seats, and I don't think that I would be mad even if there was an upset happening, right? Even if in the previous week Supernova lost, I wouldn't be mad if they lost because their other teams did play to a degree, to a level that I can say they can be a first seed as well. But I feel like for the time being, those 4 teams that are first seeds right now are perfectly logical for me in the way that they played and where they are right now as well as a team.
Yeah, so I think it's also probably just a question of like focus as well. Like this is something that we talked about last split, where it was like the Winthrop versus the Ole Miss / Supernova team, where it was like Winthrop didn't make it to grand finals for CELL that year. But then they did really well in playoffs when it came to NACL, and then like Supernova Ole Miss were like the opposite, where they made it all the way to top 2, but then like kind of had a bit of a disaster run in NACL. So maybe it's just a question of like where Supernova's priorities are, and I definitely think that even though ACL is really cool, like at the end of the day, NACL is like the bigger thing that has more eyes on it. So maybe it's just a question of priority for them at the current moment.
Yeah. So
and in that case,
let's try
like
to
who can blame them?
structure this conversation somewhat. So let's at least like we can start off with Ionia to keep talking about Supernova. But just want to like at least kind of set the stage a little bit with how the group has played out so far. So it's
Yeah, sure.
So Supernova's won the group. They come out as Team A. They are able to take down Cupid to be able to secure that. So Cupid waiting in the second, third place decider match over throughout the rest of the group. They are going to be facing off against Syndicate Eternal Season, in that decider match. So that's the third seed. That's kind of the expected matchup based on seeding. And then throughout the
Winners
rest of the group,
Team B, losers Team C.
yeah, and then
Yes.
fourth seed is locked in as Weber State, fifth as Deathmark Napoleon, and sixth as Calamity Black. So the rest of those kind of playing out as expected as well. So despite how close some of these series have been, the group kind of plays out exactly according to the seeding as you might expect.
And
Yes.
I gotta say, I'm a little bit let down about Weber, especially with how good they looked initially. Like this was a team that almost beat Supernova, and frankly, like people, I'm not gonna mention Salty Rumback a ton on this episode, but they did a little segment last time. Gordo briefly mentioned it, where it was like they did like fantasy of who is the best in their current role. Outside of like the NACL talent, right? On those like, Citadel, Supernova, CCG teams. And you can also like look at other previous NACL talent like Cryogen and Levitate who aren't on those teams. And they threw around U13 as like a name for junglers. And frankly, like I am inclined to agree. I think that U13 has been super solid. I think him and Goku have been one of the best mid jungle duos, and it's kind of disappointing to see them locked into team, locked in as Team D, because I felt like they could totally have contended for B and C with Cupid, but they lost to SYN, who were better on the day, and frankly, SYN Eternal Season might legitimately have a better jungler in Munchie. I was not convinced on this guy in the slightest. But he pulled out like Zed and Jax in game 2 and 3 and like dragged his team across the finish line. Particularly in the Zed game, this guy was like 15 kills and absolutely styling on them. Literal solo carry performance. So this is a really stacked group, but I do have to express that I thought Weber had the potential to go really, really high.
Yeah, they've had a lot of close series, right? But not really able to pull out the win.
The FlyQuest of Ionia.
Yeah, they looked very good against Deathmark, of course, when we featured them in week number 1. But in hindsight, I think that was a lot easier of a matchup. I had some high hopes for Deathmark that they have not quite matched up to yet. They, of course, will get another crack at things as a 5th seed coming into the second round of GSLs. But they kind of finish according to their seed, whereas I thought they had some potential to outperform it. But yeah, like you mentioned, Weber takes Supernova to 3. They also then take Sin Eternal Season to 3. But in both cases,
get reverse swept.
Yeah, in both cases, it's the higher seeded team that ends up coming out on top. Would have been interesting to see them play against Cupid, but they don't even get that matchup because they haven't been able to take out the likes of the 3rd seed in Eternal Season. So maybe in the future, maybe in playoffs, but. Yeah, I think Cupid perform, I think, a lot more according to straight-up expectations. They sweep their way through in the upper bracket and then get 2-0'd by Supernova. So feels like not a lot to kind of change your opinion on Cupid from the matches we've seen from them. They 2-0 Eternal Season, no problem, and then get 2-0'd by Supernova. So I'm still curious to see what this Cupid team can show us, because as I mentioned in our kind of rankings
Hub
explainer,
is, by the way.
Yeah, when we mentioned as we mentioned our rankings explainer, right? I feel like this team has some momentum to them. I suspect that they will again beat Eternal Season to secure a playoff spot here, and then it'll be very interesting to see how they do in that second GSL if that does happen.
I think that series is going to be fun.
That series is going to be awesome.
I think there's a chance. I think they're.
That might be my pick.
We'll have to see.
I might take that for Monday.
I was going to say,
I
good
would.
thing we have priority for that.
Yeah, if you don't take it, I will take it.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think
take
there's a decent chance that Cupid versus Sin is the pick there. I think that could be a fun one. That could go either way. But I would probably come in predicting Cupid for sure. All right. Well, it feels like we've been talking about Ionia the whole episode so far. So let's just keep cycling through. Let's get over to Spirit, where Papa's Chonks come out as Team A. They are able to take down Milk in 2-0 fashion. They drop one game along the way to Galaxy Gaming back in their first match, but are able to come on up with the win at the end of the day. They also fielded a substitute in that series when we got to see it on stream. They were running Bioster at 80 carry, who you may remember was a jungler in ACL last split, but came in at 80 carry and did quite well up against Milk in our featured matchup on the 4th. Throughout the rest of that group, Milk Esports and Lotus as the 3rd and 2nd seeds will be playing up against one another to determine who gets 2nd, who gets 3rd. 4th is locked in as Galaxy, 5th as GCS, and 6th as Zero Animosity. So that's actually GCS getting 1 seed higher than expected. And Zero Animosity finished last in the group despite taking games against Lotus and Galaxy.
Tough.
I think it's casting.
Yeah, that is a little bit rough.
Tilt, probably, coming up out of that. Because
it's definitely got to be tilted.
There was a good chance for them, but like I can see the mental booming in that situation. Although they technically still have a good chance of qualifying. Like I don't think, particularly from their group, they were going to be like the weakest team. And taking games off of tougher opponents is always going to be more important than anything. But yeah, no, like the problem is that when we start to see the teams getting into the FF territory, that's probably because either the team is going to boom and we're not going to see the same 5 members play again, or their mental is just simply really bad, and even if we see them playing again, they probably are not going to be at the highest level. I
mean, Seed 6 is hard. Like, these guys are now in a very rough position coming into the second GSL group. They're just going to have it's going to be all tough opponents. The other 3 teams in their group are going to be hard, and you need top 2 to make playoffs. In other news, Milk Esports come out of this group looking pretty solid. They take down Lotus in a pretty dominant fashion. This is the Reptile Lotus that is currently getting everything figured out. They also have a 2-0 series on stream against Galaxy that we just did yesterday, where we have to talk to Reptile after the game, and he talked about how he's here to, and I quote, sling some dick on NA. So let's take that to heart, to our boys Instinct and Scary Jerry. Try to, and Enthralled too. I would say Shogo, but I guess Shogo is also EMEA technically. So, but to the NA boys out there, guys, we can't just get ran by Reptile on ping, especially when he's saying shit like this. So let's come back a little stronger next time, huh?
I mean, I saw Icelandic.
We need to cover it up.
I saw Icelandic Hero run people over with Nidalee on 100 ping, so I don't really know how much ping actually matters, bro. But you know, to that note, like, yes, but like, I mean, hey man, he's about to be he's about to be a B or C team. He'll be in the upper half, so it doesn't matter. Realistically though, like, obviously Reptile is going to be the main focus of Lotus, but I do want to give like a major amount of props to Robbie Bob. Like, I think Robbie Bob has, to me, as the scene has changed drastically over the years, it's really hard to be super optimistic about a person that hasn't shown a ton of insane results over that year, whereas you get all of these other mid laners who are starting to really show up. And I feel like Robbie Bob has had a decent amount of really good series so far, like good performances in mid lane. I think him and Chad have worked together really well. I think that top side has overall been pretty good, and it's, I think, important for those players to actually show up, because I think sentiment overall is lowering for their ability. I think Porsche to me has kind of had it always a bit unfair. Like, I feel like this guy has never had the best shots ever. And has never really had the easiest path to try and necessarily get to where he should have been at his peak, but is still showing that he can contend with the best. And I'm excited to see what he can do against Sunlight, because I almost feel like Porsche is one of the original, alongside Dragoon, like very skirmishy, very fight-oriented top laners that I know can really sling some dick on NA in lane at top. And Sunlight is the new version of that, for lack of a better term. This guy plays Garen. This guy does all his weird ass shit. So it's going to be a fun matchup in top, and that's definitely the head-to-head that I'm looking at the most for. Enthralled versus Reptile is fun, but I don't know. These top laners are like old generation versus new generation insane play styles go head-to-head.
Yeah, and don't get it twisted, right? Reptile's the funny kind of meme story for that match, especially with the post-match interview. But I do think he's like the least impactful player on Lotus in that series. I think Chad played a really strong game.
Yeah, I would
he
agree.
Gets good leads early on in both games. Porsche has an absolutely sick Ambessa game in game number 1. That pick had been perma-banned against him. He gets it for the first time, and he's just nailing Enthralled with public executions and team fights to be able to carry them out for the team. And yeah, like you said, Robbie Bob has a really sick series as well. So definitely an all-around strong Lotus team, and I think we've seen cores like this do very, very well before. I think I called it on broadcast. Robbie Bob has finished like 5th, 6th in like 3 ACLs in a row now, so we'll see if he can break that curse. Although with 4 NACL teams in the league, that might be a little difficult. 5th, 6th might be what you're gunning for here.
Think about it now. Like, I think probably that Lotus team is the most like pedigree-based team that we have in the league, or the most like just in terms of like success in ACL. I think it's probably the highest success rating the team has had in ACL, just because of the players that they have, because they have
outside
Chad
of the NACL teams, right?
Yeah, no, I mean like ACL, just a straight up ACL.
Okay.
Like
Citadel's 100% ACL win rate.
Have played ACL. Yeah, they have 100% ACL win rate, but they have played once.
Sure. Okay.
Like, I mean, like, when you compare it for the amount of times that, for the amount of times that they've played, they probably have the highest like percentage value of any player in the ACL, obviously, because they have Robbie Bob, they have Chad that has won it, they have Porch as well. So they have players that clearly are, you could say, like ACL royalty, to put it like that, and they've performed really well in the ACL in general. So certainly, it's a team that you have to look out for consistently. I will say now, though, that I still think that probably the main problem that they will face, and more than likely the main problem they will have to like go over consistently against the tougher teams, is Reptile's ping, because that is going to be more and more impactful the better the players are, sadly or not. So certainly that's something that they will have to go against.
Yeah, outside of the reptile ping stuff, I think as much ACL pedigree as there is here, the fun part about ACL and its rise up is like one of the most legitimate tier 2 tournaments you're going to see in NA outside of NACL is that the cool part for like Porsche, Robbie Bob, and Chad is like, yeah, ACL before they were expected to be some of the best players there, but now with these NACL guys in here, like, we're back to the same question of, yeah, we know what the peak of Chad looks like to get into NACL. We know what the peak of Robbie Bob looks like. We know Porsche has gone toe-to-toe as like a gatekeeping tier 3 top laner. It's awesome to see now in the ACL, they're going to have to try and answer that question again in the ACL instead of like a qualifier or the NACL themselves. So the pedigree is there, but can Chad, mostly Robbie Bob, can Robbie Bob like get back to beating these mid laners that I feel like have knocked him out of qualifiers a couple times in a row now?
Yeah, I mean, I think looking at this top side for Lotus, it's definitely apparent that like the peak has already kind of passed, and so the main question for everyone is like, what can they do now that the sun is kind of setting here. And I still think that they have like a lot of life left in them, and that's why I want this team to do really well, because I like these players. But I certainly think that the focus has been off of them, and it's going to be up to them to get those eyes back. So I'm glad that we had eyes on them this past week when we were recovering them. But I feel like a lot of those eyes are mainly due to Reptile, which is a little bit of a shame, because I wish some of them would go toward that top side. I think Reptile is stealing all the thunder and discussion around this team. I mean, I imagine if you replace Reptile with some like other AD carry, like for example, if like Enthralled was on this team instead of Milk, you would probably be talking about this team relative to like Robbie Bob, but like there probably wouldn't be nearly as much excitement about them, simply because like we've seen these guys so many times, and like the idea of them getting better is not one that is often entertained.
For sure.
Sure.
So yeah, eyes on that Lotus team, and then eyes on Galaxy as well. I think they put up a good fight yesterday. I had higher hopes for that to be a potential 3-game series. There's one game they go Nexus to Nexus that game too. It very easily could have been a 3-game series. Although even that was kind of like a miracle comeback from Galaxy. I think Lotus had pretty good control over that game and kind of let it slip, and Karshiak had some sick Aurora flanks that really seemed... I mean, Reptile said as much in the interview that like they really kind of seemed to not have a good plan on how to deal with Aurora coming into some of the later game fights, and it nearly cost them game number 2. So I still on that team, because that Galaxy Gaming team is still a lot of young players. Still, I think if they gel a little bit more, have a lot to offer, especially now that they've added Krakodon to the starting team over Inori. He had a rough series up against Chad, but I think redeemed himself a little bit towards the back half of the Maokai game, and I would like to see a little bit more out of him, and I've seen more out of him on previous teams. So yeah. I think there's still chance.
I mean, have you
team to be good? I think on that Gentle Hearts team, he was kind of tearing, man. He was looking like he was going to be really good. And then it feels like he never plays like a whole split now. He's like, he gets called in halfway through the split. Even this split, he gets called in
that's
after
fair,
3 weeks to come in, and 3 games to come in and sub.
Yeah, that's fair, I suppose. But like, I think the main conceit of this team is that I really just kind of feel like they have their style and they don't really flex out of it. Like, I think in order for this team to take that next step, they have to be a little bit less one-dimensional. Like, that Inori, I remember when I was just starting to begin casting tier 3 stuff, like Inori B was one of the most exciting players to watch, and was like similar in vein with like Sushi in terms of like when they started up their careers. And the big thing that a lot of people were talking about, to improve Inori B was like, can he diversify that champion pool? This guy loves his Callistas, loves his Lucians, loves his Draven, right? That's like his pocket pick. But like, it really doesn't feel like he's been able to learn things like the Ezreal, learn things that are a little bit less aggressive in the laning phase. And I do think that is a main thing holding him back. I also think Krakodon is kind of in the same vein where, he's really just at his best on tank junglers. I think it's difficult for him to play some of the more pronounced skirmishers. And that weakness doesn't really show at the moment, because I think that, those skirmishing tanky junglers are meta as they have been for the past 2 years. But like, let's say that changes tomorrow to be like more in line with like what 2020 Worlds' jungle meta was, with like Lilia, Kindred, and Nidalee. Like, Krakodon falls off the face of the earth. He just would not be able to contend with a lot of these other. Yeah, so it just feels like they need to start practicing more strategies, because Fearless in particular is not going to help you just continue playing the same shit. So they look good, but they have their style, and I think in order to take that next step, they need to get out of that shell.
I do want to defend Inori B a little bit in that, like, I think he's still carrying on some of the champion expansion he showed us last split. Like, he's got 2 Sivir games and an Aphelios game in what they've played so far. That said, I do think there's still, like, some of the same criticisms that have been levied at him can be levied even on those picks, right? Is that he'll still position too aggressively even on those kinds of even on those kinds of later game carries. So I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think it does open up a very fun further discussion that kind of makes you realize, or like just maybe a point I want to make is that again maybe I'm just glazing as the ACL's rise by talking about this, but those are great points about how champion diversity in the ACL now is such a bigger requirement than it ever used to be. The first
It
step,
really
Bigger
is, yeah.
requirement than it is in NACL.
It's a really more important one.
Yeah, right
Damn
now it
right,
is. That's also
yeah.
very true. But a part of that is Fearless. Like Fearless was the first step because you could technically lose out on a archetype of champion and not be able to play it. But overall, I think the more impactful part of it is that again the competition has rose in these best of 3 spots to the point where now you cannot successfully be top 4, top 6 as an ACL team if some of your players cannot shift out of their meta that they've cultivated to climb the solo queue ladder, because that's how everything starts, right? That's how you get these competitive players, is they're 1 tricks or 2 tricks that climb very high, and then they get into more competitive playing and then get to this point. So to see ACL like kick up even further higher than allowing just like your like Riven 1 tricks, or like not even Riven 1 tricks, like only duelist playing top laners, only tank playing junglers, only enchanter playing supports to have success is really cool, because I think Quax is completely right about when talking about that team for an OEB.
Well, with that, let's move on to Demacia. Demacia has been won by CCG, as that's going to be the case for all of these, that the Seed 1 team ends up winning. The decider is going to be between Gravity and Milk Esports Whole Milk, so 2 and 3 both right there. Calamity Esports from 5th seed ends up taking the 4th. Mint Gaming from 4th takes the 5th, and Novasphere Gaming Myth do end in last as predicted. Milk Esports Whole Milk, you know what? For all the memes, for all the criticism, for all the fell for it again awards that the seed committee handed to themselves after Whole Milk ended up dropping to Gravity in 2-0 fashion, they were able to beat Mint in a 3-game series, and they were able to beat Calamity, and they do find themselves now with a top 3 seed.
Yeah,
You're
I
coping,
mean,
man.
so
You're coping.
This
I am stating facts.
This is the division that this is the division I would say I'm probably most invested in, simply because I think like the top 3 here are really fun to look at. Like Gravity versus Whole Milk was a super fun series in the first week, and I think set the stage for what is to be expected. I do have to say, I think that Gravity's biggest proprietors to that win, like the ones that really help push it forward, I gotta give credit over to Ajosu. Like game number 2, I felt like him on the Corki was super fun to look at. I felt like Ajosu has always kind of been this guy who hasn't had a ton of attention, like has always kind of been in the corner where a lot of people, particularly CLOL knowers, have been like, oh, it's the OKC 80 carry. Anyway, OKC doesn't really do anything, so like let's focus on the big guys like Shogo, and like let's get excited for these guys. He has slowly but surely gotten better, and I think that this series really defined that. Like I felt like he was not, I don't want to necessarily go as far as to say that he was like gapping Levitate, but I think that he was at the very least holding his own against a very clearly NACL caliber 80 carry who tomorrow could totally be in tier 2, and a support who should be in tier 2 in Cryogen. So that was super cool to see. I also want to give a lot of shout outs though to Fiji. Like I was really impressed with his Yorick game. This team is obviously super well rounded, but like you want to talk about dark horses. This is my dark horse. Like after seeing them play against Whole Milk, I'm really excited for this team going forward. And the decider for B and C team is a rematch. So honestly, I know we're probably not going to be covering that one, neither the A stream or the B stream, because it's already been covered as like a versus. But I think Gravity should be covering that on their Twitch. Totally go check that out, because this is probably going to be a leveled up Whole Milk squad, and definitely a leveled up Gravity squad.
Yeah, I think it's a good shot on Gravity. I think Fiji kind of sprung up out of nowhere. Fiji's a fun guy.
Yeah, dude was a beast.
It's
Like,
really
yeah.
cool.
Dude's
like,
a beast. Meta's
Well.
also perfect for Fiji right now. This guy's got to be one. I know Scion's very easy to play. Okay, we can make all the jokes about Scion, but Fiji, just go look how many reps this guy has on Scion as a champion. It's actually gross. And then yeah, Josu, thank God well, thank God he's getting a great roster around him in the ACL because it's been too long with that.
yeah.
For that to happen in the qualifier circuit. So
True.
Yeah, no, it's really cool for Fiji. I'm really happy for this guy. I completely mirror what you guys are saying with his kind of immediate rise, right? He debuts on that next level esports team where the focus isn't even really on him. The focus is on a Scylla out of like that first.
Yeah, was that next
generation.
level esports initial roster like the Griffin? Was that like the Griffin of tier 3 or some shit? Like the moment they disband, they all just start going crazy.
Let's wait and see what Cuz, Idol, and Yoru end up doing
The
before we
Griffin
can
of
say
tier
that.
3.
But I think Ducky Getters still
That
has
is a
the
big
beat
jump.
for that title. But
That is a good point.
yeah,
That is a good point, actually.
maybe even there.
Where's
there's like
Roughbeat?
an old Clown Gaming roster that has like Cryogen debut and like I think. Why can't I think of his name? I love this guy. Who's the Ducky Getters mid
Well, I
laner?
think Clown Gaming was the previous.
Rough
Isn't
Beans.
like
Rough
that
Beans was on that
Clown
team
the
too, that Clown
iteration
Gaming
that
team.
later on
Yeah.
became?
I just said
just
Rough Beans.
Ducky Getters.
Oh, I apologize.
Like I think Clown
Yeah.
Clown precedes the Ducky Getters though.
Sure,
Like,
sure.
just,
They
Yeah,
do.
but then
in
it's
terms
the
of what
Clown
they
Gaming
did.
team because that team was also quite good.
All right.
Anyway,
fair enough.
but yeah, no, like so Fiji debuts on that NLE team, and then he sticks with them post Asila, and then as they kind of rebuild this year, and I mean now he's a sub on CCG. He does better with that NLE team that like added Robbie Bob and stuff last ACL, and now he's just like like consensus like one of the next top laners up. It's just he's at a really kind of meteoric rise. And I'm very happy for him, and also he gets to reunite with Asila now in this Gravity team, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
With
Yeah,
Win
no,
Win and
that-
Josu and Redemption, who still continues to fly under the radar, I think, because he was playing for that.
Yeah, Redemption
He's
is
playing for
fucking
that
good, by the
esports
way.
team that none of us wanted to take seriously, so he kind of like faded away for a bit, but he's still out here, and I still think he is quite good.
Yeah, no, he's shit. He's really good. I feel like Redemption though, the thing that attracts me to him is like what we were talking about earlier, and like a main reason why ACL is able to thrive is like showing the diversity of a player. Like I think that a lot of supports have been really scared to play some of those enchanters or champions that aren't necessarily, just like go in, engage, and start a team fight. Redemption has definitely not been in that pool. So I think that it's really cool to see him, particularly around the mid game. I think his roams are really good on some of those enchanters that he plays, or some of those more unorthodox picks that we don't necessarily call meta at the current moment for support. So I think that he continues to be like one of the most impressive tier 3 supports. And what's funny is I haven't heard shit about this guy in terms of like anything outside of just watching his games. He like hasn't like Yanni did interviews for week number 1, and I really want to bring those back. And I would love to interview Redemption. So like, yeah, because I want to know more about this guy. Like, I feel like we got nothing on this man. He's a mysterious figure.
I remember. I mean, we were doing the OQ broadcast for for Liga Ace for NACL stream, in the beginning of the year, and he was playing for that pseudo Ducky Getters team. It wasn't slated 6. Was it just Ducky Getters? Were they just Ducky Getters?
I think so. I think he was on Ducky Getters.
I think they were.
Yeah.
I remember they were playing against slated 6, and it was like a showdown. But I remember prepping for that match, and Redemption was in there, and everybody's tired. Were like, "Who is this guy? Like, is this? It's not Hiccup. Who is this?" And we were just told.
We all thought it was Hiccup's like Smurf account or something like that. I remember everyone was.
We thought it might
because he came out of fucking nowhere.
They also had they
yeah.
had another substitute support, and we were. I don't.
They
remember.
did.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Hang on.
I don't think he played many games, the other sub, but
Jimmy
like
Coy.
still,
they
it was.
had a guy named Jimmy Coy, who's the Chapel Hill mid laner, on the team as well. And we were like, is it Jimmy Coy? And they were like, no, it's not Jimmy Coy either. It's it's this redemption guy. He's going by Redemption. Yeah, I don't know. What a debut though. He was super good, and yeah, I mean, definitely one of the big breakouts of 2025 for NA Tier 3, no doubt. Excited to see what else he's going to be able to show us. The only other thing I'd talk about for this group is, are you guys Calamity pilled because they beat Mint Gaming? Seed 5, Seed 4 upset. It's basically the same Calamity team. The only difference is they have Aspen at support now, where they had Pentius last year, if I'm not mistaken, or last split.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's we lost a member, but
that's
there's
okay.
Still 3
He's
of
been
us.
in and out. Don't worry about it.
All right. I
I
realistically,
don't know, because I feel like I really feel like Spencer and Foles. Maybe I just don't know. Maybe I'm just gonna disrespect Calamity. I need to educate myself more after knocking down Mint like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, on the other hand, I don't know. Maybe it's just this Mint team not really gelling, because I know they're, Spencer Institutional, Foles, CW is like a rookie. So they're kind of a new squad. I don't know. I haven't seen the games, but they just added Draven Baca, aka Smalls. Wonder if he ends up playing. Anyway, because it's like that's the only series they really win. They do win it, of course, back in day 1. But then they go to 3 games against Novosphere Gaming Myth. And then they get 2-0'd by Milk Esports Whole Milk. I don't think either of those are teams that were like, that's huge, mega competition.
Yeah.
Although Milk Esports Whole Milk is seeded as though they are, so maybe we have to give them a little bit more credit. But of course, Whole Milk also takes down Mint. So I don't know. I'm interested. They do end up as a 4th seed, which means they are, assuming that high seeds beat low seeds all the time, they are expected to make one of those bottom 4. They make one of those 4 spots for playoffs to be secured at the end there. All right, with that, let's get into Noxus, which is our 4th and final group here. Citadel win this one out with a 2-1 win over Apex Mission Impossible, a team that I do want to chat about a little bit here because they just made a little roster change. It is going to be Apex versus Prosperity, 3rd versus 4th seed as the decider. So somebody not seeded top 2 going to end up as a
Komodo
as a playoff team here. Komodo, drop pretty low there. They were in the EF decider, so they come out as the 5th seed after beating Travelers. 4th seed is going to be Ember Foxes.
What the hell?
After being taken down by Prosperity X APM. And that's everybody. Ember Foxes take 4th, Komodo take 5th, Travelers take 6th. And Komodo at 5th, that is a team you want to dodge in your 2nd stage GSL poll.
Red alert. Yeah, that's we're gonna be making some matchups of death with that team. What the hell happened to Komodo? Doxa, bro, what's going on?
I don't even know that it's Komodo necessarily choking here. Like, I think AMI, there was some debate over their seeding, right? Like, how well would they do with, they had Decoy and Baz, but it was still Protoss in the mid lane, or still Protoss support, and then Retrozing in mid was a little bit of a question mark, and they had BB in the jungle, who I do still think is pretty good. Like, I think I rated AMI as a Pool 2 team, and I think others did as well. They do end up Pool 3, but I think them taking down Komodo in a 3-game series isn't the most shocking thing in the world, especially because, if I'm not mistaken, that was the match we streamed, and they had Pocus in, right, TDS? Or you weren't even there, right? I had somebody else.
Shaunatonin, right? Yeah.
Well, no, I had Sean on Monday. So, no, I had TDS back on Tuesday last week.
No, you did it. Okay, you did have TDS.
Yeah, we did Komodo AMI, and they had Pocus in, right? I'm not crazy. I'm not imagining this. Yes.
No, I don't think so. I mean...
Oh, we've lost TDS
I think it's
again.
like... Yeah, I think it's a...
That's okay. We
I
continue.
think I seeded. Didn't I see? I think I seeded
I think I seeded
Komodo.
them 3.
think I seeded
I'm pretty
them-
sure I seeded AMI 3.
I think I seeded Komodo second
Here,
or
hang on.
third.
I can go hold us accountable, at
tough.
least for seeding
Yeah.
AMI. So AMI, Quax has them pool 3. TDS has
Okay.
them pool 3. I have them pool 3, so I'm lying. And Slayer has them pool 4.
Huh.
Oh shit! All right, I was
Okay, yeah,
I was
but-
about to call us all frauds, but then Slayer put a
Slayer
target
comes
on
in
his
here to
back
take
by
the
seeding
crown.
All right,
Thank you, Slayer, for
in my defense, they would be a pool 3 team if I knew Pocus would be subbing in over Protoss, personally.
Okay, well,
That's fair.
that was only for the first week. And also, I get some brownie points here, all right? Because for Komodo, Quax has them pool 2, TDS has them pool 2, Slayer has them pool 2, I have them pool 3. So I have these guys in the same pool. So
All right,
I get
There
a
you
little
go.
bit of credit there. Anyway, the fact that AMI beats Komodo in a 3-game series, I don't think is like a crazy choke by Komodo or anything. Is the moral of the story that I'm trying to get to here.
No, but Ember Foxes is definitely a choke.
Yeah,
like,
that's
well,
that's,
and then here's
I'm
the
not-
thing,
I'm not
right?
here.
Is that a choke? Because Ember Foxes mega outperformed their seed last time. I've kind of been batting for Ember Foxes for a bit here. Like, if you...
I thought they were good, but like
I agree,
the
this
only
is like
other
punching
series
a little bit higher up than I expected.
the only
Yeah,
other series that I've
yeah,
seen them
yeah.
play though, the only other series I've seen them play though was the one against Prosperity, and like frankly, I was not like okay,
They take
like
a game against
I thought that
Prosperity in that
Juan-
series.
They did, but if you go back and you watch that game 1, because Ember Foxes ended up winning the first game and then getting reverse swept. Ember Foxes got literally gift wrapped a game by Kongji. Kongji like went into Herald as like the fed 80 carry and was the only one fed, mind you. He was literally the only guy ahead of their counterpart, like definitively. Like Juan was dominating on the like Rek'Sai and shit like that, and then like Sim as well on the Hui was doing well. He jumps into the Herald, dives into mid turret, goes out, and immediately dies. Like he got surrounded by Ember Foxes and through the entire game. So I don't even want to act like it was necessarily like all Ember Foxes outperforming in the one game that they took against Prosperity. Like, no, Prosperity fucked up big time and probably should have 2-0'd that. Like I do give
those a split.
I do give Ember Foxes credit, like particularly I think Juan and Sim and Inflame are all really, really good players, and I had a lot to say about them when we were casting them. But like realistically, it should have been a 2-0. And I mean, the fact that Komodo lost to that, there's no other way to splice it. Even if you think Ember Foxes are like a tier 3 team or like a pool 3 team, that should not happen, in my opinion. Like you look at the people on Komodo, you look at the people on Ember Foxes, and you would say that this is a 2-0 easily, but in favor of Komodo. So it's like, it's a huge disappointment. But
I do think,
I
like,
mean,
that win against Komodo, I think that's got to be the point where like we have to start getting a little interested in Ember Foxes now, because now they end as 4th seed, so in a vacuum, they're second GSL group. They should be a team to watch to potentially be able to make playoffs, and
maybe they're definitely one of the stronger
like
D
if they
teams,
pull
I would
like.
say.
Let's imagine a group draw here where they just pull like weak teams, right? Like they pull like
Actually,
their seed 5, like they pull a group like pick your choice of seed 3 team. They pull like GCS Challengers seed 5 and like Travelers seed 6. Like Ember Foxes makes playoffs then. You know, it's like it's somewhat luck of the draw, right? But and the other thing is they're immune from pulling Komodo too, so they can't even pull the hardest 5th seed. So they're
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
you know, they're kind of guaranteed a weaker 5th seed. Like their 5th seed options are Mint Gaming, who could maybe get it together, Deathmark Napoleon, who I was higher on but have not really shown up, and GCS Challengers. And then there's pool 6 teams are Zero Animosity, Calamity Black, and Travelers. Sorry, they can't pull Travelers. Zero Animosity, Calamity Black, and Novasphere Myth.
Yeah.
So like those are all super winnable. So like I think like Ember Fox is actually probably pretty favored to make playoffs at this point. Like it's over 50%.
Yeah, but I also feel like if you look at the other D teams, like I would say with the exception of Calamity, like I would put like if we're looking like because right now the D teams are Calamity, Ember Foxes, Weber, and Galaxy. Weber and Galaxy, in my opinion, are like a significant notch ahead of Ember Foxes, and obviously they won't be
but
playing each
Ember
other.
Fox doesn't have to play
but
them,
like
yeah.
But if we're
Yeah.
saying that Ember Foxes are favored to make playoffs, then I feel like we have to extend the same thought process to those two teams as well because they are better.
Probably, and
Like,
they probably are.
so-
But the only thing is those teams have the asterisks that they could pull Komodo as their 5th seed.
I feel like I'm not as high on Komodo as the rest of you. Like if
No,
if
I
these
think
guys
that
can't
I would
even beat
pick,
Ember
I would
Foxes,
pick
then
any
like
of those teams to beat Komodo at this point. I have to. They lost to
Yeah.
Ember Foxes, but it's,
okay.
Yeah.
Then if we're on the same page, then that's good.
Yeah, we're on the same page. I'm just saying, like, there's challenge. They could get challenged a little bit more, and yeah, my point was that other pool teams aren't. It wasn't that other pool 4 teams aren't like near locks for playoffs, but it's that Ember Foxes is. So this is a team that really interests me. I still have not gotten to see them play very much as I screw up the sheet in real time. Got to do that before Ivar hunts me down. But yeah, I don't know. If you talk to Linzu about this team, I mean, he's really proud of this squad of 5 players who have not like played comp before, and it's really cool what he's been able to put together here. I mean, shout out to Coach Linzu. He's been a long-time ACL coach. Has coached some pretty good teams, and this little project of his. I'd be lying if I wasn't like, all right, man, sure, you're gonna get 5 like brand new rookies who aren't that high elo, and you're gonna like make a competitive team out of them. Especially when like by MMR they were one of the bottom teams out of 32 in the spring ACL, and now in the summer ACL by MMR like the same roster pretty much. Sim got added obviously, but the other 4 are the same. Are now top half by MMR in a 24 team ACL. Like that's a huge difference. They've just climbed a ton in solo queue as well as playing better as a team. Yeah, and if you talk to Linzu about this team, I mean, he has such great things to say about the whole squad, but especially Slime. He thinks the world of Slime. He thinks this guy is like the player to watch, I think, out of this team. Apparently, he's like shot calling everything. Apparently, Slime is like operating this entire team. It's the him and 4 dummies meme on playing on all 5 keyboards. So
that's funny.
That's a player to keep it. Especially, we always talk about weak NA support pool. I am interested in, a couple more solid Ember Foxes wins that kind of put them on our radar, and maybe Slime is a guy that's like in the conversation of next generation supports with guys like Redemption and Cryo, and I have all Calamity in that boat too. Like I think there's a new generation of supports emerging right now, and maybe Slime gets himself into that conversation.
We need it. Still,
we do
still
desperately
a lot of room and support. I will say it's better than it was at the start of 2025. I would say, but
because Redemption appeared.
Right. Yes, that is exactly who I was referring to, Gordo. Thank you for reading my mind.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a ton else to say about this one. I do think though that like AMI and Citadel, I would say that this is the most clearly defined I have above the rest for me. Like I think Citadel and AMI are head and shoulders above the rest of Noxus. Like I think that Komodo very clearly is underperforming, and then I think that everybody else is like, although good, like I think Ember Foxes are decent. Like I'm going to be honest. I think that game being taken off of Prosperity was a biff. I think that Prosperity themselves are like good, but not great. If I honestly think that this is probably just going to be a very easy AMI 2-0. I like the Prosperity players, but AMI just feel like they're better as a unit. And are less prone to throwing the fucking game.
Well, and here's the other thing about AMI, right, is that they just made a roster change. They have added in, you know him, you love him. He's Toe Slurper 55 right now. It's his IGN. It's Low Jazz, baby. He's back. He's
Yeah.
on the
He's
team. So
back.
this is now a
That guy,
3/5
Low Jazz.
spring NACL team with Decoy, Low Jazz, and Baz all on the team.
And if Pocket subs in, then like, it's forfeit.
I think Pocus is done subbing in. He talked. We did an interview with him
Oh.
after his day 2 game, and he's like, "Yeah, Protoss wasn't available, but I'm retiring and I'm coach now." So they do have Pocus
I
in the
see.
coach's chair. But I believe the intent, they wanted this to be like, we did a Baz Pocus duo interview, and they were talking about that match like it was like Pocus Last Dance. Like they do not want to be playing Pocus. They want to be playing Protoss, and Pocus wants this to be like his transition into coaching.
Gotcha.
And this was in the 2-1 win over Komodo, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
So, I'm excited. I'm excited to have Lojaz back in this squad. No hate to BB. Like I said, I think he's a little underrated. I think he performed well in that
BB is
series.
really good, yeah.
But it's Lojaz, man. I think Lojaz has always been very good at this level, and now, a split and a third of NACL has only made him better. Coming back down to tier 3, you got to believe. So I'm excited to see him with this team. I think this is now very interesting for like Retrozing, where this is now like the best team he's ever played on by a country mile. Big proving it opportunity for Retrozing here, who I thought played fine in the Komodo series, but as the split goes on, big opportunity for him here.
Yeah. I feel like that is a beautiful segue talking about a former NACL player who went to ACL.
Yeah, what happened to
Low
Jazz? Why is he back here?
Why is he here?
I
Yeah,
don't know what the decision was, but
I mean, so this is where, like Gordo said at the beginning of the episode, we're probably going to be doing very limited discussion on NACL simply because it's going to be outdated by the time this is uploaded. Super Week is going on as of the time of recording this. So we'll probably get that episode out of the way next week, where it'll be really, really big. So boys, clear up your schedules. But yeah, I mean, he was replaced when he was on Blue Otter, now by Kryra, because there has been a lot of different movements happening in NACL as far as, subbing people in, getting people out, sort of deciding those rosters while the best of ones are still running. So I believe it is Shimmer on Vancouver Impact now. It is Kryra on Blue Otter. We've even had some temporary subs, like I believe X Royal was playing for Supernova. He was doing that in ACL, by the way, as well. So we got to see a little bit of an early look at him. Yep. But he was in NACL today as of recording this on Wednesday. A lot has been happening, and I kind of wonder, is this something that is to be expected? Because we talk about the impact of best of ones, and so I feel like maybe the like mid to high tier teams aren't necessarily as concerned about it. Because they know they should be in that top 8 and are just kind of fishing around with other prospects. Because there's been a lot more, like, I feel, mix and matching between rosters this regular season than typical other NACL ones.
I mean, I think it's just the speed of the regular season, the velocity of how quickly the season's going to end this week, right? So you just have so little time that I think just the pressure gets to orgs like Blue Otter and Vancouver Impact, and they feel like they need to make changes to keep themselves alive in the NACL. Like the promotion tournament is dangerous territory. I do also think like Blue Otter kind of end up coming full circle on, like, if you go back to watch our power rankings episode for this season. I think the first thing I say when we introduce Blue Otter is the question for Blue Otter is why Low Jazz when you could have gone with Kryra. Guess they figured that out. So, welcome to Blue Otter Kryra. And then, Vancouver Impact just, I think, it's a dangerous position to be in, to be losing this many games this quickly when the season's just going to be over before you know it.
It's just the nature of Split 3, right? Yeah, it's like you could try to avoid promo tourney, but also just to try and compete in playoffs. Like it's throwing anything at the wall and hoping it sticks. Because so to see all these swaps come across, yeah, I mean, it makes a ton of sense. It does, as much as it is unfortunate to see like a couple of these junglers lose their spots with like we talked about, severely limited game size.
Yeah.
It is cool to see the competition like heating up for NACL spots, like, and it feels like it's a heightened sense of, and again, part of this is split 3. They're like, if you're not cutting it, like, we're gonna make changes. So that's always fun. I also find it hilarious that the 2 leagues that I cover the most in League of Legends are marred by jungle just getting swapped around at the most random points and junglers being homeless constantly. That is very funny. The NACL has now adopted the LPL in kicking a bunch of junglers out.
I think it's like
with
less.
short time.
So, I mean, to talk about the jungle changes, right? Like for Blue Otter, I mean, I think Kryra's like a clear upgrade. Like you can't blame, I think, anyone for swapping Low Jazz for Kryra. No hate to my boy. Toe Slurper 99 or whatever the hell his name is. Toe Slurper 55. Hashtag Toe. No hate to him, but Kryra I think is just one of the best up and coming players in here. He retains his title of having never started in an ACL split, by the way, because he came in on CCG most of the way through the season 2. So someday this guy will get to play game 1, but I guess not today, and not this split. But just like a clear upgrade for the team, and Low Jazz did also get giga slammed so hard by Dardoch that it cost him his job. I think that happened a little bit too if you rewind back to that series. Not series, to that one individual game. And then the Vancouver Impact discussion, I think, is a little bit more interesting because it feels like Will was a player with a little bit of pedigree behind him. He played in Academy while it still existed. And like Shimmer, I think, is not a player that we would have had on our short list for NACL prior to getting some time with Dark Zero last split.
Oh, no, absolutely not. But honestly, I have a ton of respect for Shimmer joining a team that is very much so likely not going to break top 8 and is probably going to be dealing with the promo relegation tournament and saying, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to join anyway, right? Yeah, it's good for reps, but I also have a ton of respect for him just doing that simply because, NACL is higher competition and win or lose, you're going to be able to get that experience in. So I think it's good for him. And hey, he manages to help them secure their first win. So that's super cool. Yeah, I have been pretty high on Shimmer, even post Dark Zero. I still have a lot of faith in this guy. And I mean, his career is still relatively young. He's not like one of the older players. He's not a player with pedigree like Will is by any means. So I'm glad to see him just taking any opportunity he gets and running with it.
Yeah, for sure. Shame for Will to not get a couple more reps here, but he's been in and out of the league. He'll continue to be like in and out of the top of the promo relegation area for the foreseeable future. But yeah, another team that doesn't quite work out for him. So interested to see what becomes of Vancouver Impact if the Sudsy buff will help them retain the spot the same way it helped them acquire the spot. Because it does look
one
like
of the most pressing questions.
It is looking like it's a little cooked for Vancouver Impact. I would be shocked if they make playoffs from this position over the next couple of days. But of course, going to have to stay tuned into the NACL to find that out. That is about an hour, and I don't think we're getting TDS back. So I think we could wrap up the episode there. But
he says hello, everybody.
Pressing issues that they want to get into.
Yeah. No. I think a lot of the stuff I want to save. Also, here, I'll say this. A lot of the stuff I want to save because fuck you, NACL format. So we'll go with that one. A lot of my reservations about the very shortened split need to come at the end of the split, in which you've backlogged the most important and most amount of sheer games in these 3 days. So that's where my head's at.
Yeah, we're gonna do. I mean, are we gonna do a full regular All-Star teams for this 9-game regular season? We'll think about it.
We should do it. We should do it. We should do it, and it'll be funny because I think we should approach it only grading grading the small sample size, and then we should compare it to like our last All Pro team. And I know there's been a lot of turnover, but it's still gonna be funny to like compare it to like
we can
an
do
All
it.
Pro team.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a fun
yeah.
exercise, so I would still like to do
It'll
it.
be more
but
fun than like
There'll be
more
less
fun
to
than,
talk
like,
about, though. That's
critical.
for certain. So
Yeah, it'll be less critical. It'll
Yeah.
just be fun.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
get excited for that one. We'll record that sometime in the next week and try to get that one out before the playoffs kicks off. Trying to settle into a cadence here with all of our crazy schedule going on. But, I mean, either we'll figure it out or the NACL will end, whatever happens first, and then everything will be straightened out and regular again. But that said, thank you everybody for tuning on in. Shout out to TDS, whose PC died and started updating. But he was here
Microsoft.
to give some takes earlier on. This is why you got to keep your computer updated, folks. But happy hanging out with y'all, and we'll see you next time.